deal. All right. First of all, good morning. I know we have plenty of questions. Come on, Colonel. To my left is our Chief Deputy, Antonio Johnson, the former Marshal. And to my right is our Interim Chief Jailer, Curtis Clark, who has been here longer than most of us. He actually occupied the building here. Now, first things first, we do want to take an opportunity to thank each of you for not only being here, but to remind you that tomorrow we are giving away over 1,100 backpacks filled with supplies over at the Villages of Carver, the YMCA. Again, an opportunity for us to really be a part of our community, and this is what this is about. From its inception, from me taking office, is how do we close the gap between our community and law enforcement. And to that extent, the larger conversation is where we are with respect to what has amassed to be a jail bridging plan and what was passed by the Board of Commissioners on Wednesday. And so to that extent, before we take any questions, there are a couple of things that we want to make sure we put out. I'll turn the microphone over to Colonel Clark so he can, again, he has a unique line of sight with respect to longevity, the things that he has seen. He helped move into this building and what the building was originally designed for, and then we'll give you a few more facts after that.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, everyone. As the Sheriff said, I was part of the group of individuals, deputies, that moved us into this facility in the early 90s. And since coming back to the jail at the direction of the Sheriff to run the jail on an interim basis, one thing that I have taken note of as I have interacted with other agencies, not only in the state of Georgia, but throughout the country, is the difference in the philosophy of jails today compared to 30 years ago. This jail was designed on what we call, or the term that is used, is an indirect supervision model. And indirect supervision is just that. You have multiple individuals that are indirectly supervising the inmates, and it's a human resource intensive process. Most modern day jails today are designed on a direct supervision model that allows for more inmates to staff ratio. And you literally have deputies or detention officers or correctional officers that are directly in the housing area with the inmates, and it requires less staff. Also, the direct supervision model allows for the inmate to remain in a centralized location, and most times all resources are brought to the inmate, versus in the indirect supervision model where the inmate is taken to the resources such as medical, courts, recreation. All of these activities require the movement of the inmate, which is, again, costs you human resource. So I think the idea that we might be in this facility for another 2 or 3 or 5, maybe 10 or 15 years, depending on what plan the county comes up with, just does not solve all of the issues that we will be addressing or have to address over the years.
So let me pick up from there. A couple things to be noted. First is that the county is responsible for the maintenance of this facility. While we oversee it, ultimately the county funds the actual maintenance, and what it looks like is $300,000 a month. We've had, since May of last year, nearly 15,000 work orders just for this building alone. The building, the infrastructure itself is out of date. The materials that were used are no longer used in building a facility of this magnitude. And keep in mind, the county commission, the Board of Commissioners, actually funded a 15-month, $1.2 million jail feasibility study. That study actually shows that 80% of the building is out of life cycle. Just last night, we had 2 attorneys stuck on floors because the elevators don't work. Right now, we're averaging 1,500 work orders a month, And that simply says that 55% of the time the building is not functioning the way it should. And what's happening is much like the Department of Corrections, and we've done the research, we have a more violent element, more violent residents that we take care of, and as such, the building is being weaponized. And so to that extent, that is why I have been steadfast about the need for a replacement facility. In and of itself, we are going to spend over $1 billion or $2 billion over the course of 3 to 10 years having to continuously refurbish this facility. So we've had a jail blitz project. Many of you will have an opportunity to see that here shortly, where we have continuously started to upgrade some of the facility. But again, keep in mind, this project is really putting a Band-Aid on open heart surgery. So from this point, I'll take any questions.
Well, how could these renovations help? It's $300 million worth of renovations to the building. That's not nothing.
And so again, we would have to do that regardless. So I think it's short-sighted, and let me explain that. Any help we get, we appreciate. So we have a jail blitz project that's underway, and you'll be able to see some of that shortly. $300 million is not a small price tag. However, it's not going to happen tomorrow. And so as you listen to the Board of Commissioners, this is a planned out process that will extend to 2026. We need help immediately. We will still have to outsource detainees to make this particular project, as seen by the Board of Commissioners, happen. We're still going to have to function. But it's even more short-sighted because it does not take into the growth of the county. It does not take into the rise in crime as a whole. And so ultimately, the jail feasibility study did. And it was a 30-year project that we won't have to revisit this for 30 years. If we took the original course of actions, we would not have to revisit this.
If a renovation project does happen, would you have to, I guess, relocate detainees? And if so, have you thought about where would you relocate them?
So we're already relocating detainees.
Okay.
So we outsourced to the city of Atlanta, we outsourced to Cobb County. We're renovating now. We have, and you'll be able to see this. So this is really smoke and mirrors. It is $300 million, again, putting a Band-Aid over open heart surgery, but we're doing it now. So every month we have, and what you'll also be able to understand as we walk the facility, is that to renovate this building as a whole will take years. And then to what extent will we have any longevity as we get ready to move forward? And as Colonel mentioned, this is one thing that we lose sight of. We have to change the culture. This building was built to warehouse people. So people move, detainees move, or residents move to their resources. They move to court, they move to medical, they move to recreation. If you recall, I ran the City of Atlanta Detention Center, which is a direct supervision facility. All the services came to the individual. And so recreation was done right there. So ultimately, there has been a shift, a cultural change dynamically in how we treat those we provide care and custody for. And so with that, we have to, as a county, catch up with the rest of the world.
Then I've got 2 questions
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
One of them is, do you feel like you're saying that this is a short-sighted plan that the commission has come up with? Do you feel like you're getting the support that you need from the county commission? Because they say they're behind you.
Well, they're behind what they're behind. And what I mean is there are 4 individuals that have really constantly chosen to underfund the sheriff's office, have chosen to, at one point last year, we had an incredible recruitment drive. We were paying $10,500 signing bonuses. We were paying double time for individuals to work in the facility. And this last budget cycle, all of that went away. And so we have to be more thoughtful about what the approach is. Look what a new building does to really support the people that come, the brave women and men that come to this building every single day. What a new infrastructure would mean, what that means for morale, what that means for a county of this magnitude. I certainly get that there are commissioners that have other agendas, but also they have other areas that they need to take care of, whether it be the lack of hospitals, right? A trauma one facility in the overall county, but ultimately, this has been a decade-long problem, and we need to solve it.
Sheriff Labat, I just want to go back to the overcrowding in the jail. It's been a big issue. I know you said you guys are already outsourcing, so to use the $300 million to renovate, how is that going to exacerbate the already existing problem of overcrowding that you have to then come back and still deal with the problems?
And that's a great question, and let me tell you why. 3.5 years ago when I took office, we had 3,700 individuals that were incarcerated. We were overcrowded the day the building opened in the 80s. We have worked hard with our justice partners, with our judges, with the public defender's office, with the DA, and since then we created an inmate advocacy unit. That unit has focused on whether an individual has mental health issues, how do we get them the services they need, but also focused on reducing the population. And working with Madam DA and her team, our population today is down to 2,400. And so we will continue to focus. I believe we've plateaued to an extent, because you have to keep in mind that if it happens bad in Fulton County, those individuals come here. And so we have to focus on again, the more violent criminals. We have mental health issues. And again, when we talk about a replacement facility, right now we have 34 beds that are dedicated to mental health. This replacement facility would have as many as 400 to 500 beds dedicated to mental health services as well as medical services. So when I say it's short-sighted, I believe we have to take a broader look at where we need to be in 30 years.
Sheriff, talking with county leaders, they say the Blitz plan, plus they say that we're down population by roughly 1,000 detainees compared to this time last year, plus this $300 million. Those kind of three elements, the Blitz plan, already seeing the population decrease using monitors and other tools, they say that's sufficient versus a replacement jail. They say we're moving in the right direction just by the measures we're already taking. Why is that not sufficient?
Well, I remind the Board of Commissioners and I remind our general public, as I ran for office, we had already spent $1 billion on what we do every single day. And it's not sufficient because, again, a good example, for instance, is the locks in the building themselves are commercial grade locks as opposed to correctional grade locks. And so now having to replace that, and the processes that take so long in this rehab opportunity, it's one that will have to take place whether we plan for the future or not. And so when I say it's short-sighted is, when you peel back the onion, we're going to have to build a new facility regardless. And I am afraid that politics has gotten in the way. And to that extent, the Department of Justice will have their own say when it's time for that report to come out. And also keep in mind, our state senators commissioned and put together an investigation into not just the sheriff's office, but ultimately the jail as a whole. And you have state senators that have said, and we're waiting on that report as well, but they have said publicly that anybody that doesn't think Fulton County needs a new facility is not living on this planet.
What about the inmates? If I can ask about that, what does rehabbing versus replacing the jail mean for the care of those inside on a human level?
And that's what this is about. This is about a human look into an issue that has been decades long. And what I mean is we have to not only change the culture for those women and men that work here, we have to change it from how we treat the residents here. We are so used to herding people together and warehousing individuals. Programmatically, we have challenges. But when you are able to have a direct supervision facility, you're able to continue to bring in larger programs. And so we have to be able to do that. We recognize that 90% of the people that are in our correctional facilities around the state come back to the metro area. And the propensity to reoffend is exactly where we are. And so when you treat people less than human, that's what you get. And I'm a huge proponent of direct supervision, what that looks like. And not only had, I grew up in that system. For 31 years, we took a hard look at the mentality of how you treat people. And if you treat people and give them the resources, then they respond accordingly.
Sheriff, your job
Yes,
is to
sir.
protect inmates who are in your care. How does the condition of this jail and not building a new one affect them and also your staff and putting them at risk?
And so, and that's a really good question. The thing that we have to keep in mind is not only is care and custody part of where we are, we need to understand that we have a more violent resident. We have, just because you are incarcerated doesn't mean you're not smart. And so we have plumbers, electricians, we have lawyers and doctors that come in. And to date, we have, let me give you, to date, we've had 10 stabbings. We've had, in terms of year to date, we've had 10 stabbings just over the reach since June 1st. 10 stabbings, 75 shanks found, homemade knives found that are being fashioned from the building. So again, because the building is in such disrepair, materials being used or used back when the building was built are being defeated. So whether it be regular cinder block, whether it be plumbing, et cetera. And so again, you got to keep in mind, and most of you were here when I took 1,500 homemade knives to the Board of Commissioners in wheelbarrows. And people said I was showboating. No, we don't own the building. I'm gonna give you the building back to you piece by piece, because ultimately we are not planning for the future. Just this week we had a drone drop, with an apparent drone drop with cell phones, with cigarettes, and it is just a matter of time before someone gets a more dangerous weapon in here.
Is the renovation plan dangerous?
The renovation plan is a step forward. The time frame is dangerous. And so every single day, the women and men of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office that come in here that provide service, the individuals the residents that we have that ultimately we have to provide care and custody for, any delay is a delay in the wrong direction. One of the things that the jail feasibility study actually revealed is that every month we did nothing, it costs anywhere from $10 to $15 million in terms of rising construction costs. What does that look like? And as I see the plan now, it's going to create an inexplicable length of time when we should be doing something now.
Are you willing to say more people will die because you don't get a new jail?
I am willing to say that the women and men of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office do a remarkable job. I've had Board of Commissioners sit and complain that they think it's management. Ultimately, we have been saying from day one that it is one of, if not the most dangerous facilities in the country. We have done a really good job of making sure people are as safe as they possibly can be. And so we're going to, if we don't increase our technology, if we don't increase, it doesn't matter if we spend $1 billion, if we don't move toward the future with respect to not just how we treat people, but the increase in technology, a forward-thinking process, people are going to continue to die, but it won't be at the hands of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, won't be at the hands of any other detainees if we can prevent it. But we need the technology to do it, we need the upgrades in the building to be able to do it, and so we'll move beyond that.
Do you think the
One more
outcome of
question.
the Justice Department investigation into the jail, do you think the outcome of that will make a new jail inevitable?
So I have not had the conversation with the Department of Justice, but I will tell you, we've been very transparent with them. And ultimately, as we've seen around the country, when the Department of Justice step in, they actually have a little more leverage in making sure that we build for the future. I do believe it's smoke and mirrors as to where we are right now. We would still have to spend the requisite amount of money to keep people safe, to rehab the facility, but specifically I do believe, should that report come down in the favor of, or with the thought process that a new facility needs to be built, the board will acquiesce. They won't have a choice. All right?
I know that the sheriff mentioned that you are probably one of the longest people that have been in the building for the longest amount of time. Chairman Pitts made a comment recently in a local interview that said a new hospital in South Fulton County is, quote, much more of a priority than a, quote, jail for prisoners. What's your reaction to that?
Let me give you a reaction. I'm from here, born and raised. I love Grady Hospital. The reaction is, quite simply, if we do not build a replacement facility, a hospital will be needed to continue to move people from here to there. I don't discount the fact that we have hospital deserts. And with the closing of the most recent hospital, we as a community have to be cognizant of that. But I don't believe they're mutually exclusive. As a board, as a sheriff's office, we need to be working together to make sure we accomplish both. Thank you.